Close your eyes and let the room soften around you. Tonight, we drift through a calm museum of the mind where every hallway is lined with quiet ideas that have been tested, challenged, and refined. In this place, the word theory is not a guess, it is a careful promise. Each theory describes how people behave, and each one dares to predict what might happen next. Scientists build these promises with evidence, and as new evidence arrives, the promises are polished, revised, or set gently aside. Strong theories are like sturdy bridges. They hold up across many different rivers of experience. Breathe in slowly. With your next exhale, we pass 5 softly lit rooms, each devoted to a way of understanding how we act, think, and feel. In the first room, behaviorism hums like a metronome. Here, learning is shaped by the environment's quiet rhythms, associations, rewards, and consequences. John B. Watson and B. F. Skinner once stood at this workbench, noticing how behavior can be strengthened by what follows it and weakened by what does not. The focus is observable, practical, precise. When the world changes its cues, behavior often changes with it. Even now, therapists use these insights to help people learn new skills, one small step reinforced at a time. In the second room, the lights glow from within. This is the home of cognitive theories, where the mind is a careful organizer. Here are the shelves of attention, the drawers of memory, the desk where decisions are drafted. Some compare this room to a gently working computer. Information comes in, is stored, retrieved, and used. Others point to the sketches pinned on the walls, schemas, the mental frameworks that help you interpret new situations by leaning on what you already know. When thoughts change, feelings and actions often follow, which is why cognitive behavioral approaches help people examine a thought, turn it in the light, and choose a healthier one. The third room feels like sunrise. Humanistic theories rest here, with the warm belief that people are oriented toward growth. Carl Rogers leaves a note on the table. Unconditional positive regard helps a person unfold. Abraham Maslow's ladder leans nearby, each rung labeled with a human need. This room trusts in choice, meaning, and potential. It sees the person as a whole, not a problem to be dissected. You are more than the sum of your parts, the space whispers, and given care and freedom, you tend to reach toward your best. Deeper in the museum, the fourth room is quieter, like a pond at dusk. This is the psychodynamic wing, where the unconscious moves beneath the surface. Emotions, impulses, and early experiences can shape patterns we do not always see. Sigmund Freud's old blueprint lies under glass. The ID's urgent push for pleasure, the ego's balancing act with reality, and the superego's ideals guiding what feels right and wrong. Whether or not one accepts every detail, the central idea remains soothing and useful. Some of what we do is driven by forces outside awareness, and bringing them into the light can be healing. The fifth room hums with delicate machinery. Biological theories live here, the brain's circuits, the body's chemistry, the whisper of genes through generations. A question hangs like a mobile. How do neural patterns, hormones, and inherited tendencies help explain behavior? Some answers point to evolution's patient hand, favoring traits that helped us survive. Others note how injuries or illnesses can tilt mood and memory. This room reminds us that mind and body are braided together. Now the museum opens into a gallery of lenses, ways to think about theories themselves. One lens is developmental, following the arc of a life from first breath to last, asking how thinking, feeling, and relating change with age. Another is grand, sweeping views built by big ideas, wide enough to map much of human nature, even if later research revises the edges. Nearby are many theories, smaller lamps that illuminate a single corner, how self-esteem forms, how children share, how habits begin. And there are emergent theories, woven from many threads, fresh, integrative, still expanding, like a tapestry that grows more detailed as new evidence is stitched in. You pause at a gentle alcove with three portraits, each offering a nighttime story. The first portrait shows Maslow's pyramid, steady as a mountain. At the base, simple vital needs, air, water, food, shelter, form the ground that holds you. Above them, safety and stability. Then connection and belonging. Then respect and accomplishment. At the peak, self-actualization, the spacious feeling of living your values, creating, growing, becoming. The pyramid does not rush you. It simply suggests that solid foundations make higher climbs easier. The second portrait turns toward childhood. Piaget's stages float like stepping stones across a clear stream. In the earliest waters, infants learn with hands and senses, discovering that the world continues even when hidden. A few steps later, children play with symbols and language, still learning how perspectives differ. Then come the steady stones of concrete operations, logic taking root, rules making sense. Finally, the broader stones of formal thought appear, where abstract ideas, justice, possibility, morality, can be held and examined. Everyone crosses these stones at a personal pace, but the stream carries all toward richer understanding. The third portrait rests on velvet, Freud's structural model. The ID is the drumbeat of desire, the oldest rhythm. The superego is the chime of conscience, asking for ideals. The ego is the conductor, listening to both and to the world outside, seeking harmony rather than noise. At night, when the day quiets, the conductor can lay down the baton, letting dreams practice without performance, safe within sleep's soft theater. Why does this museum matter as you settle into rest? Because learning how explanations are built, tested against experience, open to revision, gently loosens the grip of worry. You do not need perfect answers tonight. You only need trustworthy processes. Psychology's theories are not commandments. They are maps that get better the more we walk them. They show that behavior can be shaped, thoughts can be changed, growth can be nurtured, hidden patterns can be understood, and biology can be cared for. Breathe in, noticing how ideas, like stars, are easier to see when you're still. Breathe out, and let any harshness fade from your thinking. Theories are not here to judge you. They are here to help you notice, predict, and choose with a little more wisdom. If a question arrives, place it gently on a shelf labeled tomorrow. If a memory visits, thank it and let it dim like a lantern at closing time. Somewhere beyond this room, researchers continue their patient work, designing studies, gathering data, testing what seems true. If the evidence asks for a change, the theory changes. This flexibility is a comfort. It means understanding grows. You too are allowed to grow, to revise your conclusions, to hold yourself with more accuracy and care. As the museum lights lower, return to Maslow's mountain and feel the base beneath you. Your breathing, your body's weight, the safety of this bed. Sense the belonging that threads through your relationships, the competence you carry from your efforts, the small ways you lived your values today. Let Piaget's stepping stones turn to smooth river pebbles beneath your thoughts. Let Freud's conductor nod to the orchestra and close the score for the night. Let behaviorism's metronome slow, cognitive shelves close their drawers, humanistic warmth gather like a blanket, and biology's machinery click into its rest mode. In this quiet, the promise of theory and the softness of sleep meet. You are described by more than one story and predicted by none with certainty. You have room to change. You have permission to rest. Let the museum doors close gently. The ideas remain, keeping watch without demanding your attention. Your only task now is simple and scientific in its own way: to let the system of the body find equilibrium, to let the mind release control, to let evidence of safety accumulate with every easy breath until thought thins to a whisper and the whisper fades into sleep. Let the night gather softly around you. Imagine a quiet workshop where learning happens without hurry, small, repeatable moments shaping gentle change. In this calm place, even the simplest pattern can teach the mind new steps, and every step can be lighter than the last. Picture a bell that rings far away, followed by the scent of rain arriving on the wind. At first, the bell means nothing. The rain is what matters. But if the bell always sounds just before the rain, your body begins to anticipate. Breath deepens, attention leans forward, a response takes root. This is classical conditioning, pairing that turns a neutral signal into a meaningful cue. The unconditioned becomes conditioned, and the world grows more predictable. Sometimes, similar bells also stir the same expectation. That is generalization. With time, the mind learns to tell which bell truly brings the rain. That is discrimination. If the bell keeps ringing and no rain ever comes, the learned expectation fades. That is extinction. And now and then, long after it has faded, a single ring can briefly bring back the old feeling. That is spontaneous recovery. None of this is magic. It is a quiet economy of attention, saving energy by learning what follows what. Now turn to a different workbench, where actions nudge the world and the world answers back. When a behavior is followed by something helpful, the behavior grows more likely. When it leads nowhere, it fades. This is operant conditioning, the shaping of habits through consequences. Add something good and behavior strengthens. That is positive reinforcement. Remove something aversive and behavior also strengthens. That is negative reinforcement. Punishment can suppress behavior, but it often brings side effects: avoidance, tension, confusion. So gentle systems rely more on reinforcement, less on threat. The rhythm of rewards matters too. Sometimes they arrive on a schedule, every fifth time, every minute or two. Other times they come unpredictably, and this very uncertainty holds behavior steady, like a lighthouse that sometimes appears through fog and keeps the ship's course true. With patience, complex actions are built through shaping, reinforcing the small step, then the next, until a new skill stands where there was none. Across the room, another lesson unfolds without a word. A child watches an older hand tie a knot. Later, the child's fingers find the path. Observational learning is quiet and efficient. Attention captures the model's action, memory holds it, the body rehearses, and motivation provides the spark to try. Seeing someone else succeed can make your own success feel possible. Seeing a consequence can teach you without cost. This is learning by proxy, and it carries us forward as families, teams, and cultures. We are each other's teachers even when we do not speak. Some learning is so gentle you barely know it's happening. A face seen a few times feels friendlier. That is the mere exposure effect, the mind's way of easing toward the familiar. A word heard earlier makes a related thought surface more quickly. That is priming, a softening of the path through the forest of associations. Procedural memories, like riding a bike or typing a password, slip into place with little verbal effort, tucked into circuitry that practices while you go about your day. Breathe slowly and notice how belief also shapes effort. When you treat abilities as changeable, muscles for the mind, you reach more readily for challenge, recover faster from mistakes, and keep practicing when progress is slow. This growth-minded stance does not guarantee outcomes, but it reliably changes what you do next, and what you do next often changes what becomes possible. Effort becomes information instead of a verdict. Errors become feedback instead of proof. The workshop stays open. Learning is not only about taking in, it is also about resting well. During sleep, recent experiences are replayed in muted tones, stitched into long-term memory with a care you do not have to supervise. Different stages of sleep seem to favor different kinds of learning, facts and episodes, skills and sequences, yet the overall message is simple and reassuring. You can stop for the night and still continue to consolidate what matters. The studio lights dim, and the apprentices keep working. If you have habits you wish to soften, let this be your plan. Make the desired behavior easy and likely, link it to a reliable cue, and offer yourself small, honest rewards. Make the unwanted behavior harder to start, more inconvenient to maintain, and less connected to the comforts that keep it alive. Change the context, and behavior often follows. Rearrange a room, and you naturally reach for a different chair. Move the phone out of reach, and silence becomes simpler to choose. The environment quietly coaches you. Let it be a kind coach. If you have skills you want to grow, aim for the edge of your ability. Not so easy that you drift, not so hard that you freeze. Take small, repeatable bites. Space your practice. A little today, a little tomorrow, a little next week. Varied practice, different tempos, different examples, builds flexibility, the kind that carries from the lesson to the real world. Praise effort and strategy, not innate talent. Track progress in inches, not miles. And remember that plateaus are not failures. They are the mind's way of consolidating gains before the next step up. If you carry a pattern that confuses you, reacting too quickly, shrinking too often, consider both the bell and the consequence. Ask gently, what cue am I responding to, and what outcome keeps this alive? You do not need to interrogate the past to change the present, though history can offer clues. You can pair new cues with calm responses. You can change the consequences that once rewarded what no longer serves you. Small experiments, repeated kindly, change more than grand vows shouted once. Let this understanding settle into your breathing. You are built to learn. Your nervous system notices contingencies. Your attention follows what matters. Your memory strengthens paths you travel often. You do not need to force it. You can guide it, and then allow it to work while you rest. Tonight, you have done enough. See the workshop lights dim further now. The bell is silent. The rain arrives on its own, steady and soft. The ledger of rewards and efforts is closed and placed on the shelf. The model you watched waves goodnight, and your hands can learn tomorrow. The prime thoughts release their hold and drift like leaves in a slow stream. Sleep, the patient teacher, takes over the lesson. Every easy breath is a quiet rehearsal for calm. Each exhale is a small reinforcement of safety. With the room gentle around you and the mind content to pause, let the workshop fade to darkness, confident that learning continues, kindly, quietly, all by itself, while you fall into deep, unhurried rest. Let your attention soften, like a lantern set to its lowest, warmest glow. Imagine your senses as quiet scouts returning from the edges of the night, each bringing a different kind of message. The eyes arrive with patterns of light, the ears with thin silver threads of sound, the skin with temperature and pressure, the nose with drifting chemistry, the tongue with small maps of taste. None of these are the world itself. They are signals. Your brain is the interpreter, patient, predictive, always trying to make the best story out of partial clues. Notice how quickly a steady hum disappears into the background, That is sensory adaptation. When a signal doesn't change, the nervous system conserves energy by listening less. The same fade happens with a scent in a room or the feeling of a ring on your finger. Change is the language your senses speak most fluently, and stillness is their lullaby. As the room grows quiet, your system saves its attention for what might matter next. Perception is the art of making wholes from pieces. Your mind favors patterns that feel complete, lines that want to continue, shapes that feel closed, groups that belong together because they are near each other or look the same. These Gestalt principles let you read a paragraph quickly, see a constellation where there are only scattered stars, and recognize a friend from a few curved lines in shadow. They are shortcuts, usually helpful, sometimes misleading, always aimed at coherence. Depth is another story you tell well. Your brain uses two slightly different images from your eyes to infer distance. That is binocular disparity. When you move your head and nearer objects shift more than far ones, that is motion parallax. Lines that converge suggest a vanishing point. Textured ground that becomes finer with distance whispers far. Even with one eye closed in a dim room, you can feel space by listening to how sound softens against the walls and how your body knows the furniture it has learned by touch. Attention is the gentle gatekeeper. It cannot open to everything at once, so it chooses. Sometimes it narrows like a spotlight, catching the smallest detail. Other times it widens like moonlight, taking in the scene. When attention is engaged by one task, the rest of the world recedes. This is why a small change can happen in plain sight without notice, change blindness, and why an unexpected figure can pass through a scene without registering, inattentional blindness. Nothing is wrong with you when this happens. It is the cost of doing anything well in a world with more signals than any one mind can hold. Because attention is limited, cues help. A clear place for the important thing, fewer competing sounds, a simple rhythm for the body to follow. The brain's alerting systems are tuned to novelty and salience. Your planning systems prefer predictability. Give yourself both. Enough calm repetition to feel safe, and a touch of gentle variation to keep the mind engaged without strain. Expectations shape what you perceive. The brain predicts what should come next and checks the world against its forecast. This predictive habit saves time and energy. A word at the end of a familiar phrase seems to arrive before the eyes finish reading it. A melody resolves the way your ear knew it would. Most of the time, prediction helps. Sometimes, it fills in what isn't there or smooths over a detail you would rather notice. That is why two people can look at the same scene and remember it differently. Each mind brings its own library of experience, and perception is a collaboration between world and memory. Signals never arrive alone. The senses talk to each other. Taste is stronger with smell. Vision can tug at what you hear, shifting the sound you think you heard simply because lips moved a certain way. The brain integrates these streams to build one coherent picture, and coherence usually matters more than accuracy for any single sense. In the quiet of this hour, the streams are few, the integration is easy, and coherence becomes calm. Now, let the lantern of attention dim further. Choose one soft anchor, the coolness at the tip of your nose as you breathe in, the warmth on the way out, or the slow weight of the blanket across your legs. When a stray sound visits, name it without judgment. Door settling, car far away, and then allow it to join the background hum that fades with adaptation. When a thought knocks, tomorrow's list, yesterday's echo, treat it as just another scout returning with a message you don't have to read tonight. You can file it and let the clerk go home. If you wish to invite sleep, make the environment a friend to attention. Lower the lights, quiet the surfaces, Let the phone rest out of reach so its promises cannot compete with the simple promise of rest. Your circadian system appreciates regularity. Similar bedtimes, similar wake times, dim light when evening comes, bright natural light when morning returns. These are cues that tell the body where it is in the day, and the body loves to be oriented. Within you, different networks take turns, some for alert focus, some for effortless wandering. When you hold a single gentle focus, the chattering parts grow quieter. When you let attention float kindly, the creative associative parts can drift. Both states have their uses. Tonight, choose the easy one. Minimal effort, soft awareness, slow breath. The mind is allowed to be simple. Imagine now a shoreline at night. Waves approach in sets. They rise. They show a white line of foam. They lay themselves down and slide back into the dark. Your breath follows this tide. Inhale, the swell. Pause, the brief white line. Exhale, the long downward slide. With each cycle, let the beach widen a little. More room for the next wave to arrive without hurry. More room between one thought and the next. If a detail clings, a worry, a bright image, place it gently farther down the beach. Not out of sight, only out of the center. You are not pushing it away. You are setting it where the tide will smooth it soon enough. Meanwhile, the scouts can rest. The gatekeeper can lean back on the door. The predictive storyteller can close the ledger for the night. You are not required to notice anything more. The hum is already fading. The room knows you are here. The body knows how to sleep. Let the lantern glow one notch dimmer, then one notch dimmer still, until there is only the afterimage of light and the slow, familiar sound of your own breath, keeping time with the ocean you carry within. Let your attention soften, like a lantern set to its lowest, warmest glow. Imagine your senses as quiet scouts returning from the edges of the night, each bringing a different kind of message. The eyes arrive with patterns of light, the ears with thin silver threads of sound, the skin with temperature and pressure, the nose with drifting chemistry, the tongue with small maps of taste. None of these are the world itself. They are signals. Your brain is the interpreter, patient, predictive, always trying to make the best story out of partial clues. Notice how quickly a steady hum disappears into the background. That is sensory adaptation. When a signal doesn't change, the nervous system conserves energy by listening less. The same fade happens with a scent in a room or the feeling of a ring on your finger. Change is the language your senses speak most fluently, and stillness is their lullaby. As the room grows quiet, your system saves its attention for what might matter next. Perception is the art of making wholes from pieces. Your mind favors patterns that feel complete, lines that want to continue, shapes that feel closed, groups that belong together because they are near each other or look the same. These Gestalt principles let you read a paragraph quickly, see a constellation where there are only scattered stars, and recognize a friend from a few curved lines in shadow. They are shortcuts, usually helpful, sometimes misleading, always aimed at coherence. Depth is another story you tell well. Your brain uses two slightly different images from your eyes to infer distance, that is binocular disparity. When you move your head and nearer objects shift more than far ones, that is motion parallax. Lines that converge suggest a vanishing point. Textured ground that becomes finer with distance whispers far. Even with one eye closed in a dim room, you can feel space by listening to how sound softens against the walls and how your body knows the furniture it has learned by touch. Attention is the gentle gatekeeper. It cannot open to everything at once, so it chooses. Sometimes it narrows like a spotlight, catching the smallest detail. Other times it widens like moonlight, taking in the scene. When attention is engaged by one task, the rest of the world recedes. This is why a small change can happen in plain sight without notice, change blindness, and why an unexpected figure can pass through a scene without registering, inattentional blindness. Nothing is wrong with you when this happens. It is the cost of doing anything well in a world with more signals than any one mind can hold. Because attention is limited, cues help. A clear place for the important thing, fewer competing sounds, a simple rhythm for the body to follow. The brain's alerting systems are tuned to novelty and salience. Your planning systems prefer predictability. Give yourself both. Enough calm repetition to feel safe, and a touch of gentle variation to keep the mind engaged without strain. Expectations shape what you perceive. The brain predicts what should come next and checks the world against its forecast. This predictive habit saves time and energy. A word at the end of a familiar phrase seems to arrive before the eyes finish reading it. A melody resolves the way your ear knew it would. Most of the time, prediction helps. Sometimes it fills in what isn't there or smooths over a detail you would rather notice. That is why two people can look at the same scene and remember it differently. Each mind brings its own library of experience, and perception is a collaboration between world and memory. Signals never arrive alone. The senses talk to each other. Taste is stronger with smell. Vision can tug at what you hear, shifting the sound you think you heard simply because lips moved a certain way. The brain integrates these streams to build one coherent picture, and coherence usually matters more than accuracy for any single sense. In the quiet of this hour, the streams are few, the integration is easy, and coherence becomes calm. Now, let the lantern of attention dim further. Choose one soft anchor, the coolness at the tip of your nose as you breathe in, the warmth on the way out, or the slow weight of the blanket across your legs. When a stray sound visits, name it without judgment, door settling, car far away, and then allow it to join the background hum that fades with adaptation. When a thought knocks, tomorrow's list, yesterday's echo, treat it as just another scout returning with a message you don't have to read tonight. You can file it and let the clerk go home. If you wish to invite sleep, make the environment a friend to attention. Lower the lights. Quiet the surfaces. Let the phone rest out of reach so its promises cannot compete with the simple promise of rest. Your circadian system appreciates regularity. Similar bedtimes, similar wake times, dim light when evening comes, bright natural light when morning returns. These are cues that tell the body where it is in the day, and the body loves to be oriented. Within you, different networks take turns, some for alert focus, some for effortless wandering. When you hold a single, gentle focus, the chattering parts grow quieter. When you let attention float kindly, the creative, associative parts can drift. Both states have their uses. Tonight, choose the easy one. Minimal effort, soft awareness, slow breath. The mind is allowed to be simple. Imagine now a shoreline at night. Waves approach in sets. They rise. They show a white line of foam. They lay themselves down and slide back into the dark. Your breath follows this tide. Inhale, the swell. Pause, the brief white line. Exhale, the long downward slide. With each cycle, let the beach widen a little. More room for the next wave to arrive without hurry. More room between one thought and the next. If a detail clings, a worry, a bright image, place it gently farther down the beach. Not out of sight, only out of the center. You're not pushing it away. You're setting it where the tide will smooth it soon enough. Meanwhile, the scouts can rest. The gatekeeper can lean back on the door. The predictive storyteller can close the ledger for the night. You are not required to notice anything more. The hum is already fading. The room knows you are here. The body knows how to sleep. Let the lantern glow one notch dimmer, then one notch dimmer still, until there is only the after image of light and the slow, familiar sound of your own breath keeping time with the ocean you carry within. Imagine your mind as a quiet library after closing. Lamps are low, aisles are still, and somewhere a patient librarian is filing the day's pages. Memory works like this. First a sketch, then a trace, then a shelf. What you paid attention to was checked in. What repeated, even softly, earned a stronger binding. What mattered to you emotionally was tagged with a ribbon so it could be found again. You don't have to supervise any of this. You only have to let the doors stay closed long enough for the books to be put away. The first drafts of memory begin as fragile copies. They live in a small workspace that can only hold a few items at a time: a phone number, a line of a song, the face you just met. When too many things crowd that desk, papers slip. That is not failure, it is design. Your mind protects itself from clutter by forgetting what isn't needed and strengthening what is. Repetition whispers, "Keep this." Spacing says, "Keep it longer." And meaning, how it fits with what you already know, says, "Place it here." Sleep is the library's night shift. While you rest, yesterday's pages are stitched more securely to older chapters. Some memories are stabilized, some are pruned, and many are reorganized so they make better sense. The brain practices what it wants to preserve: fragments of a skill, a route you learned, a phrase in a new language, quietly rehearsed beneath your awareness. If dreams visit, they are the librarian experimenting with associations, turning images and ideas in gentle combinations to see what fits, what can be cataloged together. There is kindness in forgetting. Not every detail deserves a permanent place. Not every burden needs to be carried into the next room. When two memories compete, the one you used most recently, or with greater meaning, tends to win. This is interference, not loss, like choosing the clearest copy to keep. And when a name sits just out of reach, that tip of the tongue feeling is not emptiness, but a near miss. The path exists. You will find it when you stop forcing the search. Often, a little time and a different cue will light the aisle where the book already waits. Cues are the quiet guides of recollection. A scent, a song, the feel of a season. Context invites the right shelf to reveal itself. You can use this gently now. If any thought insists on being remembered tomorrow, give it a simple cue. A word on a bedside card, a brief note on a single line. The mind finds unfinished tasks harder to put down. A small written promise closes the loop, enough for the librarian to say, "We'll file the rest when morning comes." With that, the task loosens its grip and joins the stack to be processed in sleep. Meaning strengthens memory more than volume does. When you connect a fact to a story, a person, or a purpose, the brain has more ways to find it later. This is why metaphors help and why you remember ideas that fit your values. Tonight, you don't need to build those connections actively. You can trust that the day has already woven many of them. Your only job is to step aside and let the weave settle. Picture the threads slackening, then gently tightening on their own, the pattern emerging without effort. Attention made the first mark. Now, calm will deepen it. Breathe slowly and let one small detail of comfort anchor you: the weight of the blanket at your ankles, the faintest whisper of the night air on your cheek. When a memory fragment surfaces, an image from today, a line someone said, let it rise and fall like a leaf in a current. No need to follow. The library knows where it belongs. If another leaf arrives, it too can be carried downstream toward the shelves that the night shift keeps ready. You may notice that the first and last moments of a sequence are remembered best. Your mind favors beginnings and endings. Let this be an ending that is easy to recall in the morning. A calm, closing scene. perhaps a doorway with soft light, a key placed in a bowl, shoes aligned by the mat. A signal to your nervous system that the day has stepped out of its shoes and set them neatly aside. Emotion highlights pages with a bright pen. Gratitude, even in a small line, is a gentle highlighter. If it feels natural, name a simple thing to be grateful for. A sound you liked today, a taste, a kindness you witnessed. The librarian will notice the mark and place that page within reach for tomorrow. Gratitude doesn't deny difficulty. It files it alongside proof that you are resourced, accompanied, capable. If stray worries return, imagine they arrive as thin index cards without titles. You can stamp each card "to be filed" and slide it into a neutral tray. Not rejected, not solved, scheduled. The brain respects schedules. It relaxes when a task has a container. With the cards gathered, the hum of sorting begins again somewhere behind the scenes, and the reading room grows quiet. Now your breath and the night can keep each other company. Inhale as if you're gathering the scattered bookmarks of the day. Exhale as if you're laying each one into its chapter. Some breaths will be longer, some shorter. The body knows how to choose. As you soften, past and future become less insistent. The present fills the room, a low light, a steady rhythm, the feeling of being carried. Soon, the aisles will be so still that even the librarian moves like a shadow. Pages will be set in their places. Skills will be rehearsed in small, perfect loops. Unnecessary copies will be recycled. And you will sleep, not because you forced the library to be efficient, but because you allowed it to do the work it was built to do. Let the lamps dim a little more. Let the doors remain gently closed. The shelves are waiting. The nightstaff is kind. And there is nothing left to read right now. Your only task is to rest while the story of today finds its home among all the stories that made you, and to wake when morning arrives with a quieter room, a clearer desk, and a fresh page waiting. Picture attention as a soft, adjustable lamp. Sometimes it is a narrow beam, steady and precise. Sometimes it is a gentle lantern that lights the whole room. Your mind knows both ways of seeing. When the beam narrows, you can hold a thought like a seashell and hear every detail inside. When the light widens, ideas have space to meet each other quietly, and what matters can drift forward on its own. Selective attention is your lamp's dimmer switch. It lets certain sounds and sights step closer while others soften into the background. This is not rudeness to the world. It is care for your limited energy. You can think of it as a host at the door, admitting only a few guests so the conversation stays kind. Even the tiny startle you feel when your name is spoken across a noisy room is your attention looking up. The mind is always listening for what might be important, even when you're not trying. There is a gentle rhythm to attention. After you focus, there can be a small, natural lull, a blink, before the next piece of information is ready to be held. Nothing is wrong during the blink. The system is clearing the desk for the next page. Tonight, you can let that rhythm slow. With each breath, the beam of your lamp can widen a little, so that important things don't have to push. They can just arrive when they're ready. Mind wandering is not a flaw. It's the lantern's gift. When your thoughts stroll, the brain's resting networks come alive, revisiting memories, checking on unfinished business, and testing gentle solutions. It is in these unhurried moments that a stuck feeling loosens or a quiet answer appears. You don't have to steer this. You can simply allow the path to curve and trust that your steps fall where they need to. Distraction, too, can be met with kindness. A stray worry knocks. A memory pulls. A plan tries to rehearse. Instead of wrestling, you can greet each visitor and point to a soft chair by the window. You may sit. I am resting. The visitor understands. Worries prefer a fight. They relax when there isn't one. If any thought insists on being kept for tomorrow, offer it a small note in your imagination, fold it once, and place it in a simple bowl by the door. It will be waiting in the morning without needing to keep you awake. Your senses can help the lamp soften. Let the body give a few quiet cues. The coolness of the air at the tip of the nose as you breathe in, the warmth as you breathe out, the even weight of cloth across your shoulders, the way the bed rises to meet you. Each cue is a friendly anchor. You don't have to hold them tightly. Just let them keep you near the shore while thoughts drift like boats that know the tide. Expectations guide attention. All day, your mind used small predictions to move smoothly from one moment to the next, guessing the next word in a sentence, the next step on a familiar path. Now those predictions can grow quiet. You're not required to anticipate anything. If a thought arrives that begins with "what if," you can let it finish the sentence without adding another. Curiosity in daylight, permission to stop guessing at night. Emotions color the beam of the lamp. When a feeling is strong, attention leans toward it, the way a plant leans toward light. You can let that happen for a breath or two and name the feeling softly, the way you might label a jar: worry, relief, sadness, ease. Naming is not judging. It is simply knowing what is here. Often, once a feeling is known, it settles, willing to share the room with the quiet. If images arise, places you've been, people you love, let them dissolve and reform like clouds. Your attention can drift from shape to shape without choosing one to hold. In this drifting, small repairs are made. Threads that were taut loosen. Thoughts that were knotted untangle just enough. Sometimes the mind hums a tune you don't quite hear. That is the sound of background work completing without your supervision. There is a kindness in limits. The mind is powerful because it is selective, not because it is infinite. Tonight, selecting rest is a valid choice. Imagine the lamp now on its lowest setting, a warm glow that says, "Enough for today." You can trust that anything urgent would grow brighter on its own. Nothing is calling for that now. The room is safe. The door is closed. The night can carry what remains. Let the breath lengthen, not by command, but by permission. Perhaps in for a gentle count, out for a touch longer. The exhale is the body's way of setting things down. With each one, the lamp dims a notch, the lantern's light spreads, and your attention, faithful, tireless, finally rests its head. Thoughts keep their quiet walk, but you do not need to follow. You can lie back and let the path become mist. Soon, awareness will float the way leaves float on a pond, present, unbothered, drifting toward the soft edge of sleep. The lamp will dim to ember. The lantern will glow just enough to keep you safe. And in that hush, your attention will do its simplest, most healing task. It will let go. Let your mind settle like a room at dusk. Attention is a gentle lamp. You can narrow its beam to hold a single thought, or let it widen into a quiet lantern that softens everything at once. Selective attention is the kind host at the door, allowing a few guests in while the rest wait peacefully outside. Mind wandering is not a flaw. It's the house breathing, background rooms tidying themselves while you rest. When worries knock, offer them a soft chair by the window, or slip a brief note for tomorrow into the small bowl by the door. Your senses keep you anchored. Cool air in, warm air out. The easy weight of the blanket. The bed's steady support. Let expectations go still. You don't need to predict, solve, or rehearse. If a feeling lingers, label it softly and let it share the room without taking it over. Images may drift and fade like clouds. Threads loosen, knots ease. The lamp dims a notch with each unforced exhale. Nothing urgent asks for brightness now. The door is closed. Night is kind. breathe a little longer on the way out. The lantern keeps a faint, safe glow while the rest of the house sleeps. Thoughts can keep walking if they like. You don't have to follow. Float like a leaf on quiet water and let the simplest thing happen. You let go and sleep comes. Think of memory as a quiet library that stays open after dark. Shelves stretch in every direction, and a kind librarian moves by lamplight, gathering the day's pages. Some pages are crisp and clear, others are smudged with hurry. None of them are wasted. Even the half-finished notes are useful. They tell the librarian what to look for tomorrow. New experiences arrive first at a welcoming desk, short-term memory, small and precious, like a tray that can hold only a few items at once. When there's too much on the tray, things wobble. It's not a flaw, it's physics. So the librarian groups items together, chunking a string of digits into a phone number, a list into a story, reducing clutter so the tray can hold more with less effort. The longer something sits safely on the tray, the more likely it is to earn a place on the shelves. Deeper in the library is an index that cares about patterns. If today's page resembles something already filed, a face, a melody, a street corner, the librarian slides it beside its neighbors. That is how schemas form. Not a single textbook, but folders filled with connections. Each connection is a path of least resistance the mind can follow tomorrow. The more paths, the easier the walk. Emotion is a gentle highlighter. The calm ones are soft yellow. The intense ones are bright and quick. When a moment matters, the page is tagged for special handling so it won't be lost in the shuffle. This is why some details from ordinary days blur while a single line from a conversation years ago arrives, word perfect. The librarian never promises fairness, only attention. And yet drifting has its gifts. When the show pauses, the house lights dim, and the audience murmurs, a different network of the mind warms to life. Thoughts wander like gentle pedestrians on evening streets, pausing at familiar windows, revisiting old routes, sketching soft plans. This is mind wandering, not aimless, but exploratory. It braids yesterday with tomorrow, stitches loose threads, and sometimes offers a quiet solution that focus could not fabricate. With the day easing tonight, this wandering becomes restful, less about solving and more about smoothing. Attention shapes memory's fate. What the spotlight lingers on earns a better seat in tomorrow's recollection. What it brushes past sits farther back. But depth matters too. A hint of meaning, a small emotion, a link to what you already know. These act like reserved signs placed on chairs. The stage manager sees them and returns the spotlight for another pass. Repetition under kind light forms a path. Spacing those passes lets the path grow comfortable without wearing a rut. Your senses audition constantly. Touch offers temperature and texture. Vision sends edges and color. Hearing brings tone and timing. Attention decides who goes first. When you're safe and still, the auditions can slow. A distant car becomes only distance. The faint hum becomes only faint. With fewer demands, the spotlight grows wide and soft, like moonlight pooling across the stage. In that moonlight, small sensations become soothing. The weight of fabric, the rhythm of your own breath, the way silence isn't empty but filled with gentle room. Habituation, another quiet helper, turns repeated noises into background. A ticking clock, a steady fan, the same gentle creak as the building settles. The mind learns their pattern and stops promoting them to the front row. Energy is saved, calm is kept. This is why bedtime routines carry power. A familiar sequence, lights, water, a page or two, tells the theater what show to expect. A short, silent performance where nothing urgent happens, and intermission lasts till morning. When responsibilities crowd the aisle, the manager can lay down simple rules to keep peace. one thing at a time. If a thought insists, it may be written on a small card and left in the lobby for morning review. The mind trusts written cards. It relaxes its grip. The spotlight returns to tonight's quiet scene. Attention also tunes to the body's state. The more comfortable the body, the less loudly it calls for the light. Muscles that soften speak in whispers. Shoulders that lower release your capacity to listen inwardly. The stage's floor becomes springy, the air gentle, and the long balcony of awareness tilts toward rest. Signals from the outer world keep their manners. Inner signals hum like a low chorus, present but not pressing. If you've ever felt in the zone, you've met flow, the sweet spot where the spotlight is neither too wide nor too narrow, where the task matches your ability and time slips. There is a nighttime kin to flow, when the task is simply to settle. You are perfectly matched to it, no effort needed. The spotlight loosens, the director smiles from the wings, and the scene plays itself. A few last thoughts stepping forward to bow, then thanking the audience and exiting through soft curtains. As the theater quiets, even evaluation grows drowsy. You don't need to grade the day or revise the script. The stage manager gathers the notes, leaves the right ones for the night crew, and switches off cue lights one by one. The usher locks the side doors. The spotlight, now a pale halo, drifts upward and cools. What lingers is a friendly darkness, not empty, not absolute, just enough to let the set breathe. Outside, the city of your nervous system settles too. The avenues for alertness grow narrow. The streets for restoration widen. Messages slow to a walking pace. The orchestra pit of your heartbeat keeps a soft tempo, steady and low. The theater of attention, so loyal all day, thanks you for letting it rest. If a stray sound or thought taps at the door, it will be handled with kindness. The usher will offer a seat at the back. The manager will jot a note for tomorrow's first rehearsal. The spotlight will remain dim. The audience, your many senses, will remain calm and content, knowing there is nothing urgent to see. In this quiet house, everything important is preserved. Clarity is not lost by dimming the light. It is prepared. The stage is safe, the curtain heavy, the seats plush with patience. Let the theater be itself at night, a place where silence sets the scene, where attention can finally rest its arm, and where morning finds every cue card waiting, neat and legible, under a soft pool of dawn. Let everything grow simple for a moment. The day has said what it needed to say. What remains is gentle, a body at rest, a mind untying its knots. Your senses soften their edges, sight loosens, sound rounds into a hush, touch becomes a steady reminder that you are here and you are safe. From these quiet gateways, the mind begins its nightly work, less like a factory, more like a garden at dusk, tending what matters, letting the rest return to soil. You've met the mind from many angles, and all of them fit together now. Perception is not a camera, it is a conversation. Signals rise from the world and meet expectations, memories, and goals. Together they sketch the scene you live in. Learning refines the sketch, sometimes through association and practice, sometimes through insight and the soft click of understanding. Rewards nudge choices, repetition carves paths, meaning cements them. Even now, as you drift, the brain rehearses the day's small dances, strengthening the helpful steps, letting the clumsy ones fade. Thoughts move in familiar patterns, guided by schemas that keep life efficient. When those patterns grow rigid, attention can widen and let in a new note, a kinder interpretation, a helpful question. You learn that attention is a spotlight with a wise stage manager. It can narrow to a single detail or bloom to take in the room. Tonight, it blooms. With less to guard, vigilance relaxes. The spotlight dims to a silver wash that says, "There's nothing urgent to see." Emotion and physiology follow that cue. The breath finds a smooth cadence. The heart keeps an easy tempo. Feelings, even strong ones, remember that they are weather, natural, moving, already changing. You don't have to push anything away. You make space, and in that space, emotions complete their curve and grow quiet. Motivation turns gentle too. Instead of chasing, it settles into the simplest aim: restore, repair, renew. Beneath words, older rhythms carry you. Circuits that once scanned for threat now scan for comfort. Muscles let go of their extra guard. The body tells the mind, "We can stand down." In response, the mind offers stories toned for evening, memories softened at the edges, plans written in pencil, images that feel like warm light on old wood. If a thought insists on staying bright, you can set it on a small mental shelf labeled "Tomorrow," and the shelf will hold it. Trust has weight. Parts of you that once felt at odds take their seats together. The practical voice that gets things done nods to the deeper voice that asks why, and both agree that night is for neither hustling nor debating. The wish to grow and the permission to rest are not opponents. They are partners in the same long kindness. Growth happens here, quietly. Synapses adjusting, memories integrating, priorities rebalancing. The self choosing again to be on its own side. Across development, you have carried many versions of yourself: curious child, learning adolescent, responsible adult, and each still contributes something useful. The child lends wonder, the learner lends flexibility, the adult lends care. At night, they share the same roof and the same peace. No one needs to shout to be heard. The house is quiet, and because it is quiet, everyone can listen. You are a social being even in solitude. The mind holds a gentle map of your people, those you love, those you serve, those who have shaped you, and those you will never meet but still feel connected to. At night, the map softens but does not disappear. Belonging hums like a far harbor bell. You are part of a network that extends beyond today's conversations. That knowledge lets the nervous system release its grip. You don't have to carry everything alone, and you never did. The brain's night shift knows its craft. It files experiences into the right drawers, links new facts to old ones, trims what is redundant, highlights what keeps you safe, creative, and kind. It practices future steps in quiet rehearsal, testing better paths without wearing out the stage. It cleans the aisles, resets the lights, and leaves a clear cue sheet for morning. You don't have to supervise. In fact, the less you try to, the better it works. If the mind wanders, let it. Wandering is not failure. It is the night garden seeding new ideas. If the mind rests on the breath, let it. Breathing is the original lullaby, measured and sure. If the mind empties, let it. Emptiness is not absence, it is room. Room for repair, room for ease, room for the simple relief of being a living thing that doesn't need to perform right now. Thoughts may float by like lanterns on water. Some carry learning from the day. Some carry comfort. Some carry nothing at all. You don't need to catch them. The river moves on its own. The banks are safe. The current knows the way. Remember how each perspective added a thread. Behavior shaped by practice, cognition shaping meaning, biology offering stable rhythms, the humanistic urge to grow, the deep currents of the unconscious adding color from below. Woven together, they make a strong, forgiving fabric. It is the fabric you're lying on now, held by everything you've learned about being a mind and a body in a world. You can let your last waking task be simple. Thank the systems that protected you today. Thank the parts that tried, even imperfectly. Thank the quiet workers who will keep watch while you sleep. Then let gratitude fade into warmth, and warmth fade into weight, and weight fade into the gentle drift that begins behind the eyes and spreads through the chest and down the limbs like dusk across a field. There is nothing to fix in this moment, nothing to optimize, nothing to prove. The mind that learns also knows how to let go. The body that moves also knows how to be still. The self that strives also knows how to be held. Trust that knowledge. Let the theater go dark, the garden close its petals, the river keep its unhurried course. When morning comes, it will bring what mornings bring: clearer paths, steadier attention, memories arranged so that the important things are easier to reach. For now, the only wisdom you need is the quiet one. Rest is part of learning. Stillness is part of strength. Sleep is part of understanding. Breathe in, breathe out, and let the whole mind drift toward the shore where effort ends and ease begins. Emotions move like weather over the landscape of your body. Some days bring bright, quiet air. Others arrive with wind and a hint of thunder far off. None of it is a mistake. Your nervous system is a careful forecaster, sampling the air for signals and comparing them with old maps. What you feel is not just the sky itself, but your mind's reading of the sky, an appraisal shaped by experience, context, and what you expect to happen next. A heartbeat quickens, palms grow warm, the chest opens or tightens. The body speaks first, in a language of pulses and temperatures. Then the mind gives those sensations a name, weaving a thread from bodily arousal to meaning. The same flurry in the stomach could be fear outside a dark doorway, or excitement at a doorbell that brings a friend. This is why context is kindness. A safe setting turns a storm into a summer rain. Beneath the weather, there are two great currents. One mobilizes you for action, brightening the senses and priming muscles to move. The other slows and restores, inviting digestion, healing, and rest. Both are wise. During the day, the mobilizing current helps you answer the world. At night, the restoring current earns its turn, coaxing you toward deep, unhurried calm. You don't have to force it. When the world grows quiet and light fades, the nervous system reads those cues and tilts gently toward repair. Emotions are not commands. They are suggestions. Each feeling offers information about needs and values. Protect what matters, seek what nourishes, connect where it's safe. When an emotion feels loud, it is an urgent memo. But even urgent memos can be acknowledged kindly and filed for mourning. Naming helps. A simple label, sadness, worry, relief, reduces the blur and lowers the volume. Language gathers scattered sensations and places them on a shelf where they can be seen without being feared. You carry an ancient bias that favors caution. The mind notices possible threats more quickly than quiet pleasures. It was built to keep you alive. But safety also has a signal. Familiar rhythms, predictable sounds, the steady presence of someone kind. Over time, the nervous system learns these safety cues and relaxes more quickly in their company. Routines, gentle voices, a room that smells the same each night. These are quiet teachers that tell the body it's all right to let the guard step back. Reappraisal is another soft tool. It doesn't deny what is felt. It offers a kinder angle. The delayed message becomes simply not yet. The challenge becomes manageable with help. A memory becomes one part of a longer story. When the mind revises the caption, the body revises its posture. Shoulders ease, breath deepens. What was a storm becomes weather passing over ground that holds. Connection regulates. When two people share calm, their internal rhythms lean toward each other. A steady voice, a patient pause, the warmth of being understood. These are not luxuries. They are nervous system nutrition. Even in solitude, Memory can provide a version of this co-regulation. Recalling a trusted face or a place where you felt welcomed can nudge the inner weather toward mildness. The body recognizes remembered safety and follows. Letting go is not the same as fixing. Emotions crest and recede like waves. When you stop wrestling with a wave, it spins itself. Allowing is an active skill. Notice, name, and make room. The space you make is not empty. It is supportive, like water in a harbor holding a boat steady while wind passes through the rigging. The boat doesn't become the wind, it simply rides it. Awe and gratitude widen the sky. Awe reminds you that you're part of something vast. Gratitude reminds you that you're held by small, specific goodness. Each one expands attention outward, loosening the grip of tight narratives. They're not forced smiles. They're gentle lens changes. The same evening window can be a rectangle of darkness or a portal to a quiet universe. The same day can be a list of tasks or a set of chances to offer and receive care. Memory stores, emotional lessons. Experiences paired with calm become anchors you can reach for later. This is why simple, repeated comforts matter. The same cup, the same music, the same closing words. The brain binds them to safety the way thread binds pages into a book. Over time, opening the book is enough to recall the feeling. Tonight becomes another page, the ink drying slowly as the room steadies. If worry knocks late, it often asks for answers you can't give in the dark. You can acknowledge the knock without inviting it in. A mental shelf waits by the door. You place the concern there with a brief note. Return at daylight. The system accepts clear agreements. Tomorrow the shelf will still be there, and so will the light to read by. Emotions do not measure your worth, they measure your conditions. Tired bodies feel fragile. Hungry minds feel hurried. Overloaded days make small bumps seem steep. When the conditions soften, food taken, warmth gathered, expectations lowered, the measures ease. Kindness toward conditions is kindness toward feelings. A blanket is not a solution, and yet it solves something. As night deepens, the restoring current grows confident. Muscles unbraid small tensions, breath finds an even cadence, and the heart keeps gentle time. The brain begins its evening housekeeping, sorting and shelving, repairing and pruning. What once felt tangled spreads out and becomes workable. Dreams may visit. Some are strange, some familiar, but they are part of the sweeping, not a verdict. The theater of the mind continues its quiet maintenance with the lights low. You are allowed to rest inside all this. You don't have to perfect your emotions to deserve sleep. You only need enough safety to loosen your hold. The weather will change on its own. The forecaster will keep watch. The restoring current will do what it always does when given the chance: mend, balance, and prepare. If a feeling rises again, it will find you softer, not weaker, like sand that receives a wave and lets it sink. The shore remains. The horizon waits, constant and wide. Tonight, the sky is learning your kindness, and your body is learning the sky. Imagine your mind as a hush-lit library, closing for the night. Lamps dim, doors soften on their hinges, and the shelves begin a quiet rearrangement. Today's scenes, phrases, and feelings arrive in small carts, tagged and waiting. The librarian in you, patient, careful, decides what to keep close, what to store deeper, and what to let go. This is memory at rest, not idle, but tending to order. New experiences first settle on a front table where they are fragile and easy to disturb. With gentle repetition or personal meaning, the librarian wraps them in stronger paper and files them among familiar books. A name attaches to a face because you used it kindly. A fact stays because it connected to a story. Meaning is glue. Emotion, when safe, is a bookmark. The mind remembers what it understands and what it cares about. As you ease into sleep, different custodians take turns. Some sweep the aisles of the day's noise. Others copy fragile notes into sturdier ledgers. Patterns that mattered are replayed in miniature, like a choir rehearsing a phrase until it fits the song. Movement skills tuck themselves into muscle memory. Scenes braid into narratives that feel simple enough to carry. Dreams flicker at the edges, part theater, part workshop, stitching feelings to lessons, smoothing rough seams where they can. Forgetting is not failure here, it is a kindness. The library cannot shelve every scrap without clutter. Useless duplicates are recycled. Unhelpful associations loosen. What remains breathes easier, the pathways between related shelves clearer in the morning. You wake with fewer tangles not because your mind abandoned you, but because it curated your collection with care. Attention during the day is a doorway into this library. What you notice is more likely to be stored, and what you linger on is more likely to be found later. Attention is helped by rhythm. Short, focused visits to a topic beat a long, strained vigil. Returning after a while, spacing, tells the librarian, this matters across time. Mixing topics, interleaving, teaches the system to choose the right tool rather than just repeating one motion. When you quiz yourself gently, retrieval, you practice finding the right shelf, and the path becomes smoother for next time. Working memory, the counter by the entrance, is small on purpose. Only a handful of items fit comfortably at once. To carry more, the librarian bundles them into chunks. A phone number grouped, a recipe turned into steps, a story's plot held as scenes. When you tell a simple story about what you're learning, you are wrapping small pieces into a package your mind can move without dropping. Context leaves a scent on the pages. Learn in a quiet light, and quiet light can later call the memory back. Add variety, a new chair, a fresh angle, and you teach the library to find the book even when the lighting changes. Mood is part of context too. When you study kindly, your memories are tagged with ease, and they are easier to approach without tension. Biases whisper among the stacks, trying to shelve new notes where old assumptions live. Confirmation leans toward what you already believe. Availability pulls the vivid to the front. Recency favors the last thing you saw. Naming these whispers softens them. You can ask the librarian to check another aisle, to look for disconfirming pages, to balance the display so one bright color doesn't hide the rest. Habits are the library's automatic doors. A small cue, time of day, a mug's weight, the sight of a notebook, opens the entrance and starts a familiar route. Night routines can become such doors, the same gentle stretch, the same song at low volume, the same closing thought. Each repetition builds a path the body trusts, so when you arrive here, the lights dim without argument. When memories feel heavy, you can meet them with soft hands. A difficult page can be reshelved with a new label. Learned, survived, still unfolding. The story widens. The feeling has more room. If a page insists on being read tonight, you can copy the gist onto a card, just a few lines, and leave it where the morning sun will reach it. The librarian understands clear promises. Names and faces are helped by connection. Say a name aloud with a detail, Jasmine, who loves trail maps, and you staple the name to meaning. Facts are helped by purpose. Ask a question first, even a small one, and the answer arrives with more weight. Skills are helped by doing. The library cannot store a movement it never held. While you sleep, chemical inks set. Some links strengthen, others thin. The brain prunes like a gardener shaping a tree to grow light and strong. Old branches that steal from the new are trimmed. Sap flows where you've shown you'll need it. This is why the day's small choices, attention, spacing, kindness, matter more than effort that hurts. In the morning, you won't recall every line. You aren't meant to. But the ideas you fed with meaning, the skills you touched with practice, the names you tied to care, these will sit near the aisle, easy to reach. If some remain shy, return with patience. Memory prefers invitations to demands. You are not just the reader here, you are also the architect. With every gentle pass, you design a library that serves your life. Clear paths for what you value, quiet corners for what needs time, open tables for what is new. Tonight, the doors are closing softly. The carts are parked. The hush is friendly. Trust the pages to settle, the ink to dry, the patterns to knit. Your part now is simply to rest, so the library can work in peace. Imagine attention as a soft beam of light. It doesn't flood the whole room. It traces a gentle circle, revealing what matters now and leaving the rest to rest. Tonight, let the beam narrow and slow. Whatever stood just outside it all day, alerts, unfinished lists, the little clatter of should, can wait in the dark without danger. The mind is safer than it feels when it is quiet. Your breath is the dimmer switch. Each exhale turns the light down one small step. During the day, that beam is pulled by novelty and need. Bright colors, loud pings, sharp emotions, each one tugs. The beam moves because your brain is built to protect and to learn. But the fuel for focus is limited, and that is by design. The same system that steadies your gaze also tires, like a muscle after a long hold. When it does, a second mode rises, the one that wanders, revisiting old scenes, sketching futures, weaving your life into a coherent story. Both modes are useful. Focus helps you shape the moment, mind wandering helps you shape the meaning. As you settle deeper, you can feel the handover. The taskmaster loosens its grip, and the storyteller takes the pen. Threads from today drift in, a face, a phrase, a door you forgot to lock but actually did. The storyteller doesn't need crisp edges. It needs quiet corridors and slow hallways. That is what you're giving it now. Fewer doors to guard, more room to roam. The beam of attention widens into a soft glow, not to scan for threat, but to let patterns surface on their own. If your attention tries to snap back, one more check, one more thought, offer it a simple task with a gentle end. Count 3 breaths and stop. Name 5 sounds and stop. Touch your thumb to each finger and stop. The beam likes closure. Give it a small, true finish, and it will rest more easily than if you wrestle it into stillness. You may notice small sparks, a memory brightening, a worry tugging. Name them without argument, the way you might label books on a cart: memory, planning, habit, old alarm. The act of naming is not another task. It is a way of placing a card in a sleeve. The card can now travel without rattling. Your beam doesn't need to follow it down the aisle. The staff will file it overnight. Attention is not only a spotlight, it is also a rhythm. It likes to move impulses, alert, release, gather, let go. You practice that all day without noticing, the glance out a window after an email, the stretch between calls, the pause before you answered. Sleep is the longest release in that rhythm, the wide meadow between days. When you let go here, you don't lose your grip on life. You give tomorrow's hands a better hold. The body helps by narrowing the senses. Lids lower to protect the eyes. The middle ear retunes so distant sounds matter less. Muscles abandon the tiny corrections that keep us upright. The beam that tracked the world all day now tracks the breath's slow arc. Inhale, space opens. Exhale, space softens. Attention folds inward, not as retreat, but as repair. If your mind returns to a screen that glowed too late, forgive the pull. Light tells the brain it is noon even when the clock disagrees. That message is strong but not absolute. Darkness is steady and patient. With each night you keep, your inner clock relearns the sky. You do not need perfect habits to change, you need repeated kindness. Tonight counts. Consider the small switches that ease attention into ease. Fewer inputs, silence tones, a face-down phone across the room. Familiar cues, a lamp you only light at night, a scent you only open at bedtime. The beam associates. When it sees that lamp, it knows the next page of the script. When it tastes that scent, it remembers the last time it stayed. You are teaching your attention to find rest, the way it finds work, through gentle, reliable cues. Mind wandering may bring you a scene that never happened, a conversation finished gracefully, a mistake repaired with care. This is not deception, it is rehearsal. The brain tries on stories to learn which ones fit your values. In the morning, you may act a little closer to the version you practiced. You do not need to force the lesson. Just allow the rehearsal to unfold without judgment. The beam of attention will narrow again tomorrow, ready to help you live what you learned in the dark. For now, the light softens further, like a porch left on just long enough for everyone to come inside. Your breath and heartbeat agree on a slower pace. The day's last tug loosens. If a thought knocks, you can answer softly, "We open again in the morning." The beam nods. The room dims. The mind, released from its post, curls into the quiet and closes its eyes. Let your memory set down its bags at the door. All day it gathered. Names, sights, fragments of conversation, tiny corrections to old beliefs. Now it begins its night shift, quieter but not idle. New experiences, still bright with detail, are carried to a temporary harbor, a place that holds them gently while your deeper mind decides what to keep, what to reshape, and what to let go. This choosing isn't harsh, it is gardening. Some pathways are watered, some are trimmed. The result is a mind that will be lighter and wiser in the morning. Think of remembering as three movements that dance together. First is taking in, encoding, when attention wraps a piece of the world and gives it a tag so it can be found later. Second is storing, stabilizing that pattern so it doesn't fade with the next distraction. Third is retrieving, rebuilding the memory when you need it. Retrieval is not a simple playback. It is a fresh construction guided by the best blueprint available. Each time you recall, you set the ink again. That is why repetition changes you, not by stacking identical copies, but by redrawing the map with stronger lines. Sleep is the skilled cartographer. In deep, unhurried waves, your brain replays daytime patterns at a slower, steadier tempo, as if teaching them a lullaby. Short bursts stitch those patterns into place, wider, slower rhythms open the canvas, and rapid, vivid dreaming later in the night weaves the new into the fabric of the old. Facts that once floated become anchored to meaning. Skills that felt awkward are rehearsed without effort. Emotions wrapped around memories are softened at the edges so they can be carried with more ease. Forgetting, too, is part of care. Your mind cannot hold everything with equal force, and it shouldn't try. Paths you won't walk again are allowed to grow over, freeing space and energy for the ones you will. Details that added noise are gently reduced. This is not loss. It is design. When you wake, what remains will be the useful pattern, clearer for having shed its clutter. If a stubborn memory appears, an awkward moment, a sharp tone, the thing you wish you'd said, notice how it tries to attach itself to certainty. Offer it a softer place. Let it sit beside alternative explanations, kinder to you and to others. Your brain learns contingencies. This could be true, and so could that. In the quiet, a rigid story loosens, and a more generous one has room to grow. What you practice at night shapes what comes to mind in daylight. Memories like to link. They do this through schemas, frameworks that organize your knowledge of people, places, and ideas. Schemas help you move quickly. You know how a morning works, how an elevator ride feels, how a meeting begins. They can also narrow your sight when they are too tight. In the dark, your mind updates them, adding exceptions, making room for nuance. Tomorrow's habits will be the same, but kinder. The same routine, but with one less edge. Emotion is the highlighter. Experiences colored by feeling are more likely to be kept, especially if the feeling was strong. Tonight, the highlighter dries just enough for the page to be readable. Fear signals are filed with context so they don't stain every similar page. Joy is shared with neighboring memories, so one good thing can brighten the path to others. When you wake, your attention will find the signal more readily and the noise less often. If a study you skimmed or a skill you practice flashes through your mind, let it. Your brain is running spaced rehearsals, brief replays separated by rest. This rhythm strengthens learning more than one long push. You do not need to direct it, just allow the rehearsal to finish. The next breath is the pause that seals it in. Pictures, places, and people often come first, lists and labels come later. That is natural. The system that binds where and when to what and who acts like an index, pointing from the day's scenes to the knowledge they should connect with. Overnight, those pointers are copied into wider networks. Tomorrow, a detail that was on the tip of your tongue will settle into reach, not because you forced it, but because you let the systems meet without hurry. There is also a cleaning crew at work, quiet and thorough. Waste products that built up during hours of effort are washed away more efficiently in the stillness. Synapses that shouted all day lower their voices to hear the chorus. Connections that were slightly too loud are tuned, those that were almost strong enough are amplified. The brain is a city that never truly sleeps, but tonight its traffic lights blink slowly, its streets are swept, its bridges inspected and made safe. You may notice a drift into fantastical scenes, impossible rooms, conversations that braid time. These are not errors, they are experiments. By bending reality, your mind tests the strength of rules and relationships. It checks how ideas fit together when freed from the day's constraints. In the morning, you won't remember most of the trials, only the conclusions. That some paths are better, some assumptions need softening, some solutions were hiding in plain sight. If a worry tries to schedule a meeting for dawn, acknowledge the intention to prepare, then give it a container. A simple phrase will do. I'll meet you after breakfast. Your planning system relaxes when it has a calendar, even an imaginary one. It does not need to run simulations all night to prove it cares. Care can rest. It will be sharper for having slept. Let the scenes of today file themselves. What mattered? What can fade? What needs a second look later? Trust that your mind knows how to do this because it has been doing it since your first nights, learning faces, rhythms, words, opening to what repeats and protecting you from what only looks like signal. The work is quiet, the results are steady. Now the edges soften further. The day is a book you close without losing your place. Breath eases. Muscles release the last small holds. Memory keeps sorting in the background, kind and competent. You do not have to stay to supervise. When morning arrives, you will know what you need to know, and what you do not need will have melted back into silence. All you have to do now is follow the breath down, where thoughts turn to whispers, and whispers turn to sleep. Let the room dim into a quiet library, and imagine you're strolling past shelves of ideas that have helped us understand why we think, feel, and act the way we do. In science, a theory isn't a guess. It's a map tested by the terrain. Each one describes a pattern of behavior and dares to predict what might happen next. Tonight, you don't have to debate them. You can simply listen as the major schools of thought speak in soft voices and set your mind at ease. From one shelf comes the steady rhythm of behaviorism. John Watson whispers that behavior can be observed, measured, and shaped. Ivan Pavlov rings a gentle bell and shows how one sound can come to mean time to respond. B.F. Skinner places a lever in the quiet and explains how consequences teach. Rewards strengthen a path. Punishments ask us to try another. You might notice how your day was filled with tiny reinforcements, the satisfying check mark, the kind word, the little relief when a task is done. You don't have to chase them now. The night asks for no performance, and the absence of demands is its own soft reward. On the next shelf, lights glow like circuit diagrams, the cognitive tradition. Ulrich Neisser and others describe the mind as an active processor, not a passive recorder. Information arrives, attention selects, memory stores and retrieves, thinking plans and reframes. You carry schemas, quiet frameworks that help you recognize a friend's face, read a room, finish a sentence before it's spoken. When the world slows, those schemas relax, making space for gentler interpretations. If a thought appears sharp, you can offer it a kinder wording. Aaron Beck and Albert Ellis would approve. Shift the thought, soften the feeling, and behavior will follow. In the hush of this room, even your inner narrator lowers its voice and chooses simpler lines. Further along stands a sunlit alcove, humanism. Abraham Maslow invites you to imagine needs like stepping stones, breath and safety, belonging and esteem, rising toward a broad terrace called self-actualization. Carl Rogers offers unconditional positive regard, the sense that you are worthy before you change a single thing. You can feel how sleep itself is an act of care that serves every level of that gentle pyramid. To rest is to say, the body deserves renewal, the mind deserves quiet, the person deserves kindness. You needn't prove this. You can just lie back and let worthiness be a given. Across the aisle, a deep pool, psychodynamic thought. Sigmund Freud speaks of layers, the impulsive ID, the balancing ego, the guiding superego, and of an unconscious that continues its work while you dream. Alfred Adler leans in with social interest and purpose. Carl Jung opens a cabinet of symbols and archetypes that wander through stories in sleep. Erik Erikson places milestones along the lifespan, reminding you that each age has its tasks and that good enough progress is truly enough. Here, in the dark, unresolved feelings can drift to the surface like leaves, be noticed without judgment, and float away again. A low hum vibrates through another wing, the biological and neuroscientific view. Neurons exchange faint sparks. Donald Hebb's adage murmurs that cells firing together wire together, which is why today's practice calm becomes tomorrow's easier calm. Genes offer tendencies, experience tunes them, sleep consolidates the learning. With each slow exhale, stress chemistry ebbs and restorative processes take their turn. You don't have to feel this happening to benefit from it. The body is fluent in quiet work. Near the center of the library, a modest table holds bridges between shelves. Albert Bandura sets down the idea of social learning, how we model what we've seen, how self-efficacy grows from small successes. John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth add attachment, where secure bonds become inner anchors. Even in solitude, you can call up the felt sense of a trustworthy presence, and the nervous system responds as if someone safe has just entered the room. Safety, real or remembered, is a powerful sedative for the mind. Along the walls, older murals glow. Wilhelm Wundt and Edward Titchener once practiced careful introspection. William James asked what consciousness is for, letting function take the lead over structure. The Gestaltists, Wertheimer, Köhler, Kafka, paint patterns and remind you the whole is different from the sum of its parts. Your day was a mosaic. Sleep lets the tiles settle into a picture without you having to arrange them. Voices blend. Vygotsky, with sociocultural patience, speaks of learning together and the space just beyond what you can do alone. Piaget nods to stages of understanding and the playful work of discovery. Kohlberg traces moral reasoning as it matures. None of them demand study tonight. They simply offer reassurance. Growth unfolds, and rest is part of the unfolding. You may notice how these traditions, once rivals, now collaborate. Therapies braid them, cognitive tools with behavioral practice, humanistic warmth with psychodynamic depth, biology's insights with mindfulness of breath and body. This integration mirrors what your brain is doing now, linking distant islands of experience with quiet bridges, filing the day's pages, closing the drawer. If a doubt approaches, is any theory complete? Let it sit beside you without urgency. In science, maps are revised when the terrain teaches something new. Your inner cartographer does the same. As you sleep, noisy streets are redrawn as calm paths. Detours become discoveries, and blank spaces label themselves to be explored later. Feel how the shelves recede into twilight. The library keeps its watch. You keep your breath. Theories have done their work for the evening. They've explained enough to let you trust the process that continues in the dark. Prediction loosens, vigilance dims, and the body knows the way from wakefulness to sleep like a river knows the sea. Inhale as if turning a page. Exhale as if closing the cover. Let the lights grow faint until all that remains is the gentle truth every school of thought would endorse. You are safe enough to rest, and rest is how the mind remembers what matters and forgets what doesn't. Let the quiet widen, and we'll visit a few more wings of the great museum of mind, not to memorize, just to linger among ideas that have guided countless gentle inquiries into why we are the way we are. In one gallery, evolution hangs like a long timeline. Charles Darwin sets the frame, and modern evolutionary psychologists such as Leda Cosmids and John Tooby suggest that many tendencies of attention, memory, fear, and affiliation were shaped by ancient pressures. David Buss describes patterns in mating preferences. Others note our quickness to see agency in rustling leaves. You don't need to adjudicate any debate tonight. It's enough to feel the continuity. A nervous system designed to notice, learn, and adapt, and to rest so it can keep adapting tomorrow. Next to it is Culture's Pavilion. Harry Triandis speaks softly of individualism and collectivism. Hazel Marcus and Shinobu Kitayama show how selves can be independent in some places and interdependent in others, shaping what feels natural, polite, or fair. Lev Vygotsky's sociocultural notes return here, reminding you that minds grow in conversation with tools, symbols, and other people. As you breathe, imagine your own mind as both uniquely yours and gently co-authored by family, language, traditions, and time. A room of traits glows with steady lamps. Gordon Allport begins with the idea that dispositions guide consistent patterns. Raymond Cattell and Hans Eysenck sort traits with factor analytic care. Paul Costa and Robert McCrae arrange the familiar five: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, like 5 strings that each of us tunes differently. Walter Mischel steps in to say, context matters. Behavior is a quiet duet between person and situation. You can feel the truth of both views. You are a pattern and you are a response. and sleep is where the pattern and the world reconcile. Across the hall, motivation flickers like campfire coals. Clark Hull once spoke of drives and reductions. Later, Edward Deci and Richard Ryan offer self-determination theory. We thrive when autonomy, competence, and relatedness are warmed. Expectancy value ideas whisper that effort follows what we believe is possible and worthwhile. Abraham Maslow's gentle ladder returns. At its base, the body's need for rest is not optional. It's the ground of every higher step. As you settle, competence can simply mean, I know how to breathe. Relatedness can be the felt presence of those who care. Autonomy can be the free choice to close your eyes. Another space is devoted to emotion. William James and Carl Lang propose that we feel afraid because the body trembles. Walter Cannon and Philip Bard respond that the brain and feeling move together. Stanley Schachter and Jerome Singer add appraisal. Interpretation steers experience. Richard Lazarus elaborates. What the event means to us shapes what we feel. Tonight, let every appraisal become simpler. This is safe enough. This is time to restore. With each exhale, the body teaches the mind what calm means, and the mind gently agrees. Memory keeps a softly lit archive. Richard Atkinson and Richard Schifrin sketch sensory registers, short-term storage, and long-term shelves. Alan Baddeley and Graham Hitch add working memory, the quiet clerk that holds and manipulates. Endel Tolving separates episodic and semantic stories. Fergus Craik and Robert Lockhart suggest levels of processing. Meaning leaves deeper prints than surface details. Sleep librarians move silently among these stacks, consolidating and pruning. You don't have to file anything, just let the librarians work. In The Language Alcove, Noam Chomsky sets out the notion of an inborn structure for grammar. The earlier debate with B.F. Skinner rests now like a closed book on a friendly table. Benjamin Lee Horff and Edward Sapir raise the idea that words and grammar nudge attention and thought. Whether or not language fully shapes the mind, it certainly soothes it. A kind phrase to yourself can soften the next breath. Tonight's language is simple, rhythmic, and kind. Intelligence has a thoughtful salon. Charles Spearman places a single G on the mantle. Raymond Cattell and John Horn distinguish fluid from crystallized abilities. Robert Sternberg adds analytical, creative, and practical facets. Howard Gardner proposes multiple intelligences, a garden of talents. Whatever the model, one simple truth remains. Intelligence is not vigilance. Insight often arrives after rest. If there is a knot, sleep invites it to loosen on its own. A corridor of attention stretches like a quiet runway. Donald Broadbent once proposed a filter, Anne Treisman an attenuation. Michael Posner maps networks of alerting, orienting, and control. Global workspace theorists like Bernard Bars and Stanislas Dehaene imagine conscious access as a broadcast. Giulio Tononi's integrated information picture glows with complexity. You don't need the details. It is enough to feel attention narrow to a single gentle anchor, air in, air out, and then widen until even the act of focusing is optional. Social psychology hosts a circle of chairs. Solomon Asch, Muzaffar Sharif, and Stanley Milgram remind us that groups and authority sway behavior. Leon Festinger describes the itch of cognitive dissonance and the relief when beliefs realign with actions. Henri Tajfel and John Turner speak of social identity. Claude Steele of stereotype threat. Bib Latane and John Darley of the bystander's hesitation. These findings can be weighty, yet they also point to a comforting practice. Small acts matter. One inner voice offering reassurance can shift the whole room of the mind. Tonight, your presence for yourself is enough. Clinical approaches are arranged like gentle tools on a felt-lined tray. Cognitive behavioral techniques offer thought records and exposures. Marcia Linehan's dialectical behavior therapy pairs acceptance with change. Stephen Hayes's acceptance and commitment therapy invites values-guided action, with thoughts held lightly. Interpersonal therapy tunes relationships. Family systems models, like Murray Bowen's, map patterns across generations. Psychodynamic therapies listen for themes beneath the day's plot. Jon Kabat-Zinn brings mindfulness into medicine, inviting awareness without judgment. You can simply borrow their common thread. What we notice kindly can transform. Health's Anteroom is signed Biopsychosocial in George Engel's hand. Biology, psychology, and social context weave a single cloth, and sleep is the seamstress that mends it nightly. A nearby model from Yuri Bronfenbrenner layers concentric circles, family, community, culture, time, around each person. You are held in those circles even now, and they can be imagined as widening rings of calm. Neuroscience returns for a last whisper. Donald Hebb's principle meets long-term potentiation from Terje Lumo and Tim Bliss. Connections strengthen with repeated use. Carl Friston's predictive coding suggests the brain forever reduces surprise by comparing expectations to signals. Night lowers the volume of prediction and lets error signals drift away. The result by morning is gentler priors. The world is a bit more workable. You are a bit more resourced. Before we leave, positive psychology offers a small lantern. Martin Seligman's PERMA, positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, accomplishment, does not ask you to chase happiness. It invites you to notice goodness where it quietly resides. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's flow is the feeling of being carried by a task. Sleep is a different kind of flow, the world doing the work while you drift. Let these names and notions grow dim like stars toward dawn. Darwin and Tooby, Triandus and Marcus, Allport and Costa, Michel, Hull, Deasy and Ryan, James Lang and Cannonbard, Schachter and Singer, Lazarus, Atkinson and Schifrin, Baddeley and Hitch, Tulving, Craik and Lockhart, Chomsky, Sapir and Whorf, Spearman, Cattell, Horn, Sternberg, Gardner, Broadbent and Treisman, Bars and Tononi, Ash, Milgram, Festinger, Tajfel, Steele, Latany and Darley, Beck, Linehan, Hayes, Kabat-Zinn, Engel and Bronfenbrenner, Hebb, Bliss and Lumo, Friston, Seligman and Csikszentmihalyi. They do not compete here. They harmonize into a single lullaby. Minds are many-layered, shaped by bodies and cultures, guided by purpose and soothed by care, capable of learning and unlearning, and always, always renewed by rest. Then let's drift a little farther, letting ideas arrive like fireflies and fade just as gently. Learning hums first, the quiet engine beneath so much of life. Ivan Pavlov shows how signals can become promises. A bell, a light, the softest cue, and the body prepares. Edward Thorndike's cats find the latch sooner each time, and B.F. Skinner's pigeons turn pecks into patterns, responses strengthened by what follows them. Albert Bandura adds a lamp in the corner. Sometimes we learn by watching, storing templates of what to try later. You don't have to memorize any of it. Just notice how your nervous system is always practicing, and how rest is when practice settles in. Perception returns as a friendly guide. James Gibson would say the world offers affordances, stairs that invite climbing, a pillow that invites sleep. The brain does not copy reality, it collaborates with it. Top-down expectations meet bottom-up signals and smooth the edges of the night. Visual illusions are reminders, not tricks. What you perceive is the best guess in this light. Tonight the best guess is safety, and your body believes it. A warm corridor opens onto attachment. John Bowlby sketches an infant's first alliances with care. Mary Ainsworth watches how reunion can soothe or strain. Across the lifespan, we keep tracing those patterns, seeking proximity, checking for responsiveness, daring more when we feel secure. Later, Cindy Hazan and Philip Shaver show how adult love echoes early templates. If any part of you feels small and watchful, let another part answer like a steady caregiver. I'm here. Nothing urgent now. We can rest. Emotion sits like a circle of comfortable chairs. Paul Ekman maps expressions that tend to travel across cultures. Lisa Feldman Barrett suggests emotion is constructed, the brain making sense of bodily states with concepts and context. Joseph Ledoux traces defensive circuits. Antonio Damasio speaks of somatic markers, the body's vote in decision-making. However the diagrams differ, your experience tonight can be simple. Sensation named softly, breath gentled, meaning made kind. Memory offers another lantern. Hermann Ebbinghaus noticed forgetting's curve. Later work found what mends it. Spaced practice, retrieval, rich connections. Kareem Nader's reconsolidation shows that recalling can be a chance to revise. Sleep participates in all of this. Hippocampus handing off to cortex, slow waves carrying daytime patterns into quieter, more stable forms. Imagine librarians pushing carts down long aisles, filing without hurry. You do nothing. The story keeps improving. Settle in and let these quiet truths drift by, each one small enough to hold, together wide enough to feel like a shoreline. Attention is a narrow beam. At any moment, your mind can keep only a few meaningful chunks in view, often about 4, so it stitches the world together by sampling. Because of that, we miss more than we notice. Change blindness and inattentional blindness aren't glitches. They're the price of focus. Multitasking is mostly rapid switching, and each switch taxes you a little, like a toll booth on a busy road. When you do one thing at a time, you buy back ease. Perception is a best guess. Bottom-up signals rise from the senses, while top-down predictions fall from memory and goals, and experience is their handshake. That's why illusions feel so real. Your brain is doing what it always does, choosing the most probable story in the current light. Familiarity gently raises liking, the mere exposure effect, so the song you didn't love at first can become the one you hum. Memory is reconstructive. You do not replay a video, you rebuild a scene. Each recall is an opportunity to revise, which is how healing can happen as old memories meet new meanings. Spacing out practice and pulling information from memory, retrieval, cements learning more than rereading does. Context and state matter. What you learned in one setting returns more easily in a similar one, which is why stepping away and coming back can feel like turning a key. Sleep is a quiet librarian. Slow waves rehearse patterns from the day. REM links them to older shelves. Without your help, important traces are strengthened and noisy ones are pruned. Even short naps can tidy cognition. When you let yourself rest, you're still learning, only now the work is hidden and kind. Emotions are information and invitations. They tell you something about your needs and the situation, then invite a response. Naming them, sad, frustrated, nervous, but safe, often softens their grip. Reappraisal, the gentle art of seeing a different frame, can lower intensity without denial. Fast, steady exhales help your body favor the parasympathetic brake. The heart listens closely to the way you breathe. Expectation shapes physiology. Placebos don't fake relief. They harness prediction, learning, and social cues to change real outcomes, especially in pain. Attention modulates sensation. Pain increases when you zoom in on it, eases when you broaden or redirect. The body is not a passive speaker, it's a duet partner with the brain. Attachment is an early compass that keeps working. When care is responsive, exploration grows. When bonds feel shaky, vigilance rises. These templates are adjustable. Relationships, therapy, and even self-talk can add new pages. Co-regulation precedes self-regulation. Sometimes the quickest way to calm yourself is to borrow another nervous system, even through a memory of someone steady. Social perception runs on shortcuts. We overestimate how much others notice us, the spotlight effect, and we explain our own missteps with context while pinning others to character, the fundamental attribution error. Belonging cues change behavior. A single signal that you're included can lift performance under pressure. Loneliness is not mere mood. Chronically, it strains health, while even brief, warm contact quiets threat circuits. Choices are stories about gains and losses. Losses loom larger than equivalent gains, so we'd rather avoid a loss than chase a similar win. The first number we see can pull our estimates. Anchoring, and the way options are framed can tilt the same outcome toward yes or no. We sink costs because endings are hard. It helps to ask, if I started today, would I choose this? Your future self is a stranger you can get to know. Concrete plans and small, certain steps are the best introductions. We mispredict our feelings. We forecast too much intensity for too long, both for joys and for setbacks. The hedonic treadmill brings us back to baseline, which can sound bleak but also means resilience is common. Peak in memory compresses long experiences into a highlight and a finale. Shaping those two moments can change how a whole day feels in hindsight. Habits are the mind's autopilot. They bundle cues, routines, and rewards into quick loops that save energy. Because they're cue-driven, redesigning the cue or the first 2 minutes of the routine is often more effective than wrestling with willpower. If-then plans. If it's 9 p.m., then I make tea. Prime behavior like setting out tomorrow's shoes tonight. Motivation flexes under 2 engines. Intrinsic motives, curiosity, purpose, mastery, are steady. Extrinsic ones, rewards and pressure, can be useful but brittle. Progress beats perfection. Small wins create momentum because the brain tracks trajectories, not absolutes. When goals meet obstacles, mental contrasting and whoop, wish, outcome, obstacle, plan, turn hope into logistics. Mindfulness is attention with friendliness. Watching thoughts like weather rather than orders reduces rumination. The thought is a cloud, not the sky. Self-compassion is not letting yourself off the hook. It's keeping yourself on the path. People who speak to themselves as they would a friend tend to persist more, not less, because shame burns fuel while kindness refuels. Creativity favors alternation. After focused effort, a walk, a shower, a pause, incubation, lets the non-conscious keep tinkering. Ideas often arrive at the edge of effort because networks that don't talk during grind time finally compare notes. Constraints help. A smaller canvas can free bolder strokes. Time perception is elastic. When attention is scattered and meaning is thin, minutes stretch. In flow, when challenge meets skill, hours disappear. Anticipation lengthens time. Retrospection compresses it into landmarks. You can't control the clock, but you can cultivate sequences that feel like good time. Beginnings with intention, middles with presence, endings with care. The body teaches the mind. Gentle movements, practiced breaths, and practiced expressions can cue states your brain has learned to associate with them. Warmth softens social judgments. A real smile recruits different muscles and different feedback than a performed one. Posture won't rewrite your life, but comfort and openness make some thoughts more findable. Language shapes lanes. The words available in your culture carve distinctions. Some languages name shades you might otherwise lump together. Some mark time differently, and those distinctions can bias what you notice and how quickly you retrieve it. Even within one language, saying you or your own name when coaching yourself creates a bit of distance and steadier choices. Biases aren't bugs to delete, they're heuristics to understand. Availability makes vivid events feel common. Representativeness makes stereotypes feel predictive. Confirmation pulls us toward agreeable evidence. Scarcity sharpens desire and narrows bandwidth. Naming the pattern gives you a small lever. This looks like anchoring. What would I think if I saw a different first number? Learning is social and scaffolded. With the right nudge just beyond your current ability, you stretch. Too far, you flail. Too easy, you stall. Feedback that points to strategies, not fixed traits, keeps the door open. Effort praise works best when it's specific and paired with tools, not "you're smart," but "that draft got clearer when you grouped ideas. Do that again tomorrow." Brains stay plastic. Networks rewire with experience across the lifespan. Deliberate practice thickens traces. New skills carve new roads. Some birth limits and injuries are real and non-trivial. Within those bounds, change remains possible and often surprising. Curiosity is an excellent personal trainer. Stress is a curve. Too little arousal and performance droops. Too much and it frays. A middle band, varying by person and task, supports focus. How you appraise stress matters. My heart is prepping me shifts physiology toward approach. Recovery is part of performance. Oscillation beats grind. Music organizes mood. Slow tempos gently nudge heart rate and breath. Favorite songs braid memory with reward. Singing in groups synchronizes bodies and builds belonging. Nature nudges the nervous system too. Views of green or blue, even brief ones, tend to lower tension and quiet mental noise. Technology shapes attention by design. Notifications act like variable rewards, the most compelling slot machine in your pocket. Turning off non-essential alerts is not asceticism. It's reclaiming cognitive space. Even a silent phone on the table can tax working memory a little because part of you keeps the door cracked in case it calls. Ethics and identity evolve. Moral reasoning tends to grow from rule following to principle weighing, and many people also cultivate an ethic of care. Who is affected, and how can we reduce harm? A coherent identity isn't a single story you must keep. It's a flexible braid of values and roles. When stories conflict, values make the knot looser. Trauma narrows the world, safety widens it again. The systems that kept you alive can overgeneralize, ringing alarms in quiet rooms. Relearning safety through grounding, gradual exposure, and supportive relationships tells the body over and over, this moment is different. Recovery is not forgetting, it's remembering who you are in more places. Hope is not a mood, it's a skill. Clear goals, honest pathways, and a belief, sometimes borrowed, that you can move. Gratitude is attention trained to notice the ordinary good. It doesn't deny pain, it widens the frame. Meaning grows where effort meets something larger than you, and often where you help someone else carry their bag up a few steps. You do not need all of this at once. Let a few pieces settle where they will. That attention is narrow and can be rested. That memory is editable and can be made kinder. That breath is a lever you always carry. That belonging changes the body. That rest is productive. That change is possible and often begins smaller than you think. Close the notebook. Leave the lamp on low. The mind remembers more softly when it feels safe, and safety can begin with one easy breath in, one longer breath out. Thought wanders to decision and judgment. Daniel Kahneman describes two tempos of mind, a fast, intuitive stream and a slow, deliberate current. Amos Tversky catalogs shortcuts that usually serve us and sometimes mislead. Gerd Gigerenzer notes how simple heuristics can be surprisingly wise in the right environment. Tonight there is no decision to force. Fast can idle, slow can idle. If a choice drifts through the room, let it pass like a cloud behind your eyelids. Consciousness itself softens. Bernard Bars's global workspace is a quiet stage where some signals become broadcast. Stanislas Dehaene speaks of ignition, Giulio Tononi of integrated information, Anil Seth of controlled hallucination shaped by prediction. None of that needs solving. The spotlight dims. The stagehands of the brain continue their work in the wings, and the show you most need to see now is darkness becoming tender. The social mind leaves a few notes on the table. Solomon Asch and Muzaffar Sharif remind us that norms tug at us. Leon Festinger shows how we ease the friction when actions and beliefs don't match. Carol Dweck offers a growth mindset, abilities as trainable, not fixed. Claude Steele warns of stereotype threat and the power of belonging cues to loosen it. Let a small belonging cue glow for you now. You are allowed to be exactly as you are, in this bed, in this breath. In the room of development, Jean Piaget draws stages of understanding. Lev Vygotsky draws scaffolds of help. Erik Erikson lays out psychosocial tasks, trust, autonomy, purpose, identity, intimacy, care, integrity, like stepping stones across a stream. Lawrence Kohlberg outlines moral reasoning. Carol Gilligan sketches a complementary ethic of care. You don't have to measure your progress. Every step can wait. Sleep is the bridge that holds all the stones in place until morning. Health psychology ties many threads together. George Engel's biopsychosocial view says bodies, minds, and contexts are inseparable. Placebo research, Fabrizio Benedetti and others, shows expectation shaping physiology. Mindfulness research, John Kabat-Zinn, Richard Davidson, shows attention reshaping reaction. Compassion-focused therapy reminds you to talk to yourself as you would to a dear friend. Tonight the intervention is simple, a gentle stance toward every sensation, like laying a blanket over a restless chair. Creativity leaves a sketchbook open. Graham Wallace once described preparation, incubation, illumination, verification. Many find that the insight arrives after the problem is put down, not while it's clutched. Your putting down begins now. The mind that naps is the mind that wakes with a small, useful surprise. Neuroscience returns with one last soft chalk mark. Donald Hebb's cells that fire together, wire together, explain the grooves of habit. Sleep is when grooves are inspected, some deepened, some smoothed. Glymphatic currents rinse the brain's byproducts more freely during deep stages, as if a night janitor opened the windows and let the cool air through. Your job is only to let the window open. Therapy's workshop turns out the lights, tools resting. Cognitive restructuring, exposure, behavioral activation, EMDR's bilateral rhythms, interpersonal tuning, acceptance and commitments values compass. Different maps for different terrains, each with evidence, limits, and particular grace. They agree on one truth. Awareness plus kindness plus practice changes things. Rest is a practice too, and you are doing it. Before the museum closes, positive psychology leaves a small bowl of gratitude stones. Not performance, not pressure, just noticing. A breath that moved freely, a shoulder that dropped, a thought that came and went without catching. Meaning can be as light as that, a thread you can find again tomorrow. What remains is simple. Inhale like turning a page. Exhale like placing a bookmark. The chapter you've been reading will be here in the morning, a little clearer for having been left alone. For now, the observatory dims, the librarians glide, the janitors hum, and the softest theory, proves itself again. Given a safe place and a little time, minds know how to heal. You have toured enough theories for one night. Let the museum dim its lights. The guards of attention lock the troubling galleries. The curators of memory continue their quiet curation. Your only task is ease. Inhale as if opening the window to a cool night. Exhale as if drawing the curtains closed. The last thought is simple and generous. Nothing more needs to be solved before sleep. The work is well underway, and you are already on its softest path.